Hello. Starting videos are so hard. Now I know why people come up with their little catchphrases. Um, Welcome. I decided to, after doing some experimentation of little different vlogs, I decided on a new series that I'm going to call the Dissertation Diaries. And really, this is for me. I'm thinking about this as my field notes. I'm an anthropologist, and yeah, I've been struggling with embodiment, which is maybe ironic in an Alanis Morissette way, since I'm studying embodiment. I'm gonna take a risk. I didn't create any notes to go off of because I didn't want to create yet another barrier to getting my thoughts down. And it feels really important to get my thoughts down right now because I'm pretty freshly off having decided on a dissertation idea. And it was so hard to get there. And so that's really something that I want to talk about, I guess, in this video, more about the process of getting to this point. And I'm still semester 1 of my PhD, so I'm incredibly early in the process. And yet it was so hard. Maybe a week or two before I settled in to what I want to study, I was in San Francisco for school. We go for 1 week each semester while we're in coursework, and the department chair said doing a dissertation is like a dark night of the soul. And I will admit, I gave out a loud guffaw in the middle of class, and he was like, no, really. And I just have to say, I have to like eat my words. Maybe I need to write him an email apologizing because I'm certainly already there. Like I thought it had been difficult, but it actually got more difficult once I decided. So I was like kind of trying to think about how to approach this video because even though I'm semester 1 of coursework, this has been a lifelong journey. I know that sounds like quaint or trite, but it is absolutely true. Yeah. Okay. Where I'm trying, it's like such a broken timeline. And I don't know, it's kind of like, is it quantum physics where the timelines are like all existing at once? That's kind of how it's feeling. Like things that happened to me when I was like 5 years old are literally impacting me now at 38 years old. I guess where I can feel like I can begin that this journey started was a writing class in February 2020. So right before COVID started, I went to New York and I went to this channeled writing class where we were doing occult writing. And what came out of me, actually, this is quite funny. I remember that I was wearing this sweater. It's purple and glittery. And why I remember that is what came out of me was so absolutely dark. And that at the end of the class, the one of the teachers was like, you should check out Santa Muerte to work with because she's often depicted wearing colorful clothing and rainbow flags and things like that, but then she is Saint Death, right? So that's why I remember I was wearing this. So, accidentally perfect. Just like me. And yeah, it was just really incredibly dark what was coming out of me. And I realized that I had been trying so hard. I had a podcast about self-love for a long time that got almost like 100,000 downloads. And it was just starting to grate on me how surface level everything was staying. And being in that class made me realize that I had so much beneath the surface that I needed to dive into. And so I started looking into horror as a genre and started to explore these like darker themes in my life, which I had are absolutely present and I had absolutely been avoiding. And that led me to confronting some traumas, to starting depth psychology. I wrote the first draft of like oh my god, what is the genre? I can't think of it. It's like, magical realism / horror, to help deal with some of these like psychic issues, and it really did help. I think there's something to active imagination in that way. But then working with this depth analyst in Jungian psychology, I reached a plateau that I was just not getting over, and I realized I needed to go deeper than my mind. I needed to get into my body. I started working with a somatic experiencing therapist. This is all relevant because I'm studying embodiment. And my life changed drastically. I'm not going to get into like how incapable I was of taking care of myself, but I was really struggling because I had so much bottled up inside, and that helped me to release it. And then I was able to take some big steps forward in life, including starting grad school, starting a master's degree, which ended up, because my original school closed, branching into 2 different master's degrees. So the first master's degree was basically me figuring out like, what is the body and how do we reclaim it? And then the second master's degree was thinking about the body as a site of political control and like practical applications of embodiment, and specifically pleasure. And I finished one of those masters in December of last year, and then the other in July of this year. And if you can hear the cat, I'm sorry, he is such a drama queen. When I was wrapping up my thesis, I was having such a hard time bringing in the threads. I was having a hard time cutting things out. But then once it came time to begin thinking of the next project, I realized that I didn't actually want to continue the same way that I had been going. Like, I did feel like I had wrapped everything up, and I wanted to move into the next iteration. And that was the question, right? What is going to be the topic of my dissertation? I know broadly I'm talking about the body. I know broadly I'm talking about anti-capitalism. Okay, well, we all have bodies, and we all basically now live under capitalism. And I'm studying anthropology, which is about humans in the world. So I've narrowed it down by nothing. Having my morning coffee, so good. My friend and teacher made this mug, Tita. It's a really good mug. She makes good mugs. So this summer was awful. This summer was just awful. I made myself sick finishing my thesis because of the big beautiful bill and all of these weird things happening in academia. I really needed to get into my PhD program this fall. And so I was pushing myself to finish, and I overworked myself, and I can remember the moment that like my brain broke. I had been just working until I was exhausted, pausing to feel better, just enough to get going again. I had a friend who was cooking for me, so I wasn't even like feeding myself. Thank you, Vipul, for taking care of me. And I was getting kind of towards the end, and there was one day, I think it was a Monday in May, and it was getting to the point that I was working and my heart was pounding in my chest. That's how like physically exhausted I was, and I was losing weight even though I was like eating so much. And it was this Monday, my heart was racing. I had paused in order to calm myself back down, but it was only like 6 o'clock or something. And I remember thinking, I can still get a couple more hours of work in before I call it a night and go to bed. And I started working, and then I got a migraine, and then I basically had a migraine for 6 weeks. And a lot of that was because my thesis wasn't done, and so I had to keep working on my computer, and so I was working with this headache. So I was already feeling, this all plays into like my personal dark night of the soul, but I was already feeling just physically, emotionally depleted. And then another thing happened over the summer that it didn't have to do with school. It was like a personal misreading of a situation. It just turned out that I had been like misreading a situation incorrectly for a year-ish, and it just, when I realized that I had just like fantasized this whole thing, it just broke a little bit of trust in myself, and I had already not been feeling well, and then this self-trust erosion really sent me on a downward spiral. And it was something that I was struggling with in my somatic experiencing therapy, and my therapist actually even suggested that I bring in some like alternate modalities to help support, and that didn't end up working. But so it's really hard to set the course of my life for the next 5+ years. I have up to 10 years to finish my dissertation. It's really hard to set the course for so long at the same moment when I'm like, you're not trustworthy, you can't read situations, you have no common sense. I'm gonna pause here and think and collect my thoughts, because yeah, it's challenging and it's hard to put into words. And so when I got to the retreat in San Francisco, and if I ever call him my advisor, it's because he was my advisor in my master's. He's the department chair. When he said, you're gonna go through a dark night of the soul, I thought I was in it and going through it, and I was like, okay, like I got this, I can handle this. Like this complete breakdown of physical body and emotional body and self-trust, like dark night of the soul, whatever. I got this. I can handle this. So I had been thinking, and if anyone is watching this because they're curious about their own dissertation diaries, I think before I continue, I think the most important thing I can share is like making space for this is the work at this point. Like I have 5 to 10 years to do this. Carving out space for this kind of exploration. Hello. You made it up. Carving out space for this kind of exploration is unpleasant and also led to the breakthrough, which led to the real dark night of the soul. So one person that I'm incredibly inspired by her research, she did her master's at my school, and she ended up turning her master's research into a book called Birth Work is Care Work. And as part of her field work, she became a doula and then interviewed people who are doing doula work in prisons or doula work in low-income neighborhoods, doula work for marginalized communities, and then talking about how it was a very Marxist perspective, right? How care work is devalued under capitalism and this kind of reclamation of care work as work. So this has been something to me like a really high standard. And this person, she left academia and now works as a doula. And she found this life purpose through her research. And I believe that I want my research to have impact in the world. I don't want to be an armchair anthropologist or an armchair philosopher. I want my work to change the world, but I also believe that my research should change me. And so I had this really high expectation of like, I need to discover my life's work. So like incredibly high standards here, while also dealing with these other things. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, what are some modalities that have impacted my life? I was thinking of breath work, of maybe doing a breath work training. I know of one that is specifically about reclamation and doing the work to make sure that they're training people to hold space for things that emerge. I was thinking about herbalism. I was thinking, this one's a little bit of a weird one. For New Year's and the 4th of July, I went to a dance retreat, and it's both times led by a DJ and a 5 rhythms dance teacher, and the set list was so good, just days and days and days of excellent music. And the DJ has a DJ training called PhDJ, and so I was like, maybe for my dissertation I'll become a DJ. and talk about how music can change the world, because I love music. And like none of these were quite feeling correct, and I was pulling tarot cards on them, and interestingly, every time the tarot was like no to the PhDJ, which I was like, fine, I guess I won't be a DJ. I'm just going round and round and round in circles and revisiting things. And I signed up for an ethnobotany class, the politics of ethnobotany class this semester, to kind of explore the herbalism aspect. But then I was listening to a podcast with an herbalist, and she was talking about how blah 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 herb is good for wound care, and she would use it a lot in her clinical practice. And I was like, oh, wounds. That's not just me being like prissy. I faint at the sight of blood, which is the only way I got my parents off my back about they wanted me to be a nurse. And then I fainted at the hospital when my brother was getting his blood drawn, and they were like, okay, guess that's not gonna happen. So herbalism was a no-go. Tarot said don't do PhDJ. Breath work. I like breath work, and I think that there's a lot to it, and breath work is so important to me. Breath work is one of the few things that I have found to be a practice that consistently interrupts any negative patterns that I'm going through. And I use breath work a lot. I think breath work is probably the thing that has kept my downward spiral from just like exploding downwards. And but to do a dissertation on it, like there's just this passion piece missing. And so I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna keep going, keep exploring. And so this is what I'm talking about, like all of these timelines converging led to both the decision of what I'm going to study, which I will get to. Maybe I should have just like said that at the beginning. But no, now we all have to wait to get there. Taco is over here demanding pets. I feel like a lot of times, but especially this past year, I have been trying really hard to explain myself, like why I am the way I am, and trying to be understood, especially when I know that I'm acting in a way that I don't love. Like I can get quite rigid, I can get quite closed off. If I'm tired or if I'm triggered, I can be a little sarcastic or aloof, and I can witness the pattern happening in motion, and sometimes it's just so ingrained that it's hard to get out of it. And so I feel like I've been trying so hard as an attempt both to be understood and to explain to people like it's not personal, but also as a way of interrupting the pattern and taking responsibility. I've been trying to explain, and one thing happened at the residency that made me realize that no one is gonna understand me. I mean, half the time I don't understand myself, but I just had this real-time experience with somebody just like deliberately misunderstanding me, and then trying to explain myself made things worse. I hadn't slept for like 4 days, and so I left one day early, and I get insomnia like a couple times a year, and in January of this year I had insomnia pretty bad, and I had tried to like tire myself out, and I went to a workout class, and it ended up just making it worse. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I was like, my heart was pounding, and I was just laying in bed for like boom, 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 like not sleeping. So this time I was like, okay, what am I going to try this time to sleep? Because this intensive is not over, and so I can't afford to just be half present for the rest of the week. So I went to a dispensary. I took some prescription medication, which I try not to take because it's been linked to early onset dementia. And I went also, so I had already tried those two things. They weren't working. I also have melatonin. I also have magnesium. I also have passion flower. Taking all of these things, they're not working. So I also went and I got NyQuil, and I took everything. I took the NyQuil, the THC, the passion flower, the melatonin, the magnesium, laying there, not sleeping. So like 3 hours later, I took a second dose, and that did it. And I went to sleep, and the next day, everyone was like, where were you? And I was like, sleeping. But I had to explain, right? Like, I had to do this. And someone just like went off on me, was like, NyQuil can be addictive. You got to be careful with the sleeping pills and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't think that you understand insomnia. I don't think that you understand, like, what it's like to try to show up, especially in an academic space where I'm supposed to be smart, and I haven't slept in days. And I said to him, like, you know, I have PTSD and insomnia is a symptom, and so I have to manage it in the ways that I manage it. And as soon as I said that, I just saw something like switch in his demeanor. And then he became kind of mocking of me in that conversation, and then later in other conversations. And I was like, that clicked to me. I was like, people aren't gonna understand. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter how much I try to explain my experience. Like, there's never gonna be complete understanding. And I'm wasting my time because it's not really pleasant to me to explain to other people what's going on rather than just living the life that I want to live. And that's like another reason that I've been trying to explain, like, my life is pretty good. I have set up a life that I enjoy. I'm doing things that I love. And sometimes people will look at me and say that I'm lucky. And I try to explain too, as a way of being realistic, to say, like, this is not an Instagram perfect life. Like, I have panic attacks, I have insomnia, I have times that I struggle to leave my room because I'm afraid of the world outside. And I guess I've been misunderstanding too how people are approaching me. That I bring that up because it was such an important moment, like, realizing how pointless it is, realizing that I want and need to do what pleases me, what makes sense to me, and that the only person who really needs to understand is me and maybe my dissertation committee. So that was a really big moment to getting to the dissertation topic. The other big moment was this summer, realizing that I had just misread the situation, feeling like I couldn't trust myself, feeling like I couldn't, once again, like I couldn't trust my body. And I did try a couple other therapists, and the first one, like, screamed at me, like, you are loved, you are worthy, blah, blah, blah. Just, like, so intense, so in my face. And she was like, and then, like, making me repeat it back. And I'm like, my physical body is, like, retreating. And I'm like, I am safe, I am worthy, I am loved. And she was just, it was not good. And then the second person I talked to, she had on her website that she does plant medicine. And so I met with her, and she said, I said, sometimes I take a prescription medication to sleep. She said, I won't work with you if you're taking that medicine, so you have to come off of it. And then it was like, have you tried melatonin? And I was like, that is so sweet. Oh my God, melatonin. Why didn't I try that? You're so smart. I was just so off put. I think she's a new therapist and is still, like, creating her, like, therapist persona. And I was just like, meh. So that one didn't work out. And then I did meet with someone else, and he has experience in a variety of modalities. But I was just, it was really another version of talk therapy with some depth psychology put into it. So, like, a little bit of dream and symbol analysis. And I was like, I am so fucking tired of talking about all of this. It is, I'm just so over it. And he was saying, like, well, maybe you should just keep working with your existing therapist, but see if you can bring in some other modalities. And that made me remember that she is also an art therapist, and thinking, I'm an artist. What if I work more intentionally, maybe, with my art practice? I kind of have let it be emergent, but what if what if this is the next iteration for me, of discovery, of self-research? So I had the talk therapy first, creating the stories, getting everything out. The depth psychology, exploring the symbols, exploring the inner archetypes, moving into the body, getting to know my body, getting the skills to root myself in my body. And now I'm feeling like I'm number one, I need expression, but number two, there's still some inner wounds that I don't want to embody. I have resistance to embodying them. But they're also like walls that I want to take down. And so working in this way allows me to work with what I'm feeling, but to externalize it, to kind of soften the edges of it. This all matters, I swear to God. So I was like, okay, I'm going to work with art. And so then I was sitting again, thinking and going over, what do I want to study? And I don't even, like, it was a Saturday night, maybe a Friday night recently, and everything just came together. Like, I was thinking, what research is valuable, and what research helps me become who I want to become. So there's a lot of things that I do that are not related in a tangible way to social change. So that was a focus that I wanted to have. And then, who do I want to become? And I had this beautiful, gorgeous moment of reclamation. And I was like, I want to dance, and I want to perform, and I want to study how and why that is a good thing for creating other ways of knowing, other systems that support people. And this was such a reclamation. I imagine that you have heard the advice, like, in order to find your passions as an adult, think back to what you loved as a kid. And I have asked myself this question for years and years and years. Like, I've been asking myself this question for at least a decade, maybe more. And the only answer that I ever had was like, well, I liked reading. I loved reading. I would read like a book a day. And so that's really what got me into writing. And then, like, school is obviously a lot of reading and writing. But my real passion, and that I just totally, like, erased, I guess it felt untouchable, was I wanted to be an actress. When people said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be an actress. And I wanted to be a performer, and I did theater. And so it was a reclamation of that part of me, but it was also a reclamation of that's like a part of me that I lost just over time, through life happening and responsibilities, etc., and choosing paths that took me in other directions. But it was also a reclamation of something that I felt was stolen from me. When I was very young, I took ballet, and I had an evil stepfather, and my mom had to go overseas for maybe a year or something, and one of the first things that he did was take me out of dance classes. And I held on to the tutu I had in that class for years afterwards. Like, for as long as the tutu fit me, I was a ballerina for Halloween. And yeah, it was just something that was taken from me and that I never asked to have back. Though I did do, I like taking dance classes. I was briefly on my college dance team in undergrad, though I had such bad imposter syndrome that I dropped out after the first performance. I've never gotten to seriously explore this aspect of myself, and so it just felt so right to me to explore this aspect. It felt so right, and that I didn't even ask the tarot. I was like, this is it. This feels right. I'm gonna study bodily alienation, our disconnection from our bodies, and then how performance art can bring us back into it and help us to express and connect. And it just felt so right. And then after, I sent my advisor an email because I'd met with her like a week or two before that, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I could do this or this or this. One idea I had is I was going to do the anthropology of the heart and talk to different heart healers, like herbalists and heart surgeons and energy workers, and talk about the physical and energetic heart. And I was like, and I could do breath work, and I could, like, I just like dumped so much at her, and she was like, and she would, she was giving me suggestions, and I was like, I don't know. So she said, how about by the end of the semester, you just send me an email, like, with some next steps. So I didn't even check the tarot. I just wrote her the email, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm like so excited about it, and like this feels right, and I'm just going to start exploring. And then after I sent that email, I did pull some tarot cards, just trying to get like an overview. I love the tarot as a way to illuminate hidden aspects of things, and the cards were good, but it also predicted exactly what happened, which was like, you're going to need all of the tools that you've been developing somatically, emotionally, etc., to support this, because this is a big, long journey. There is so much of myself in this, so much reclamation of it. I'm confronting 35-year-old wounds. I'm confronting current fears of imposter syndrome and perfectionism. Like, there is so much happening. This isn't so cut and dry as like, I'm gonna take some dance classes, I'm gonna read some papers, I'm gonna do my ethnography. Like, I wanted a personal transformation, and I think that I got it. And the tarot is like, this is good, this is great, take it one step at a time. I was like, okay, that's so cute. And then I woke up the next day and I didn't want to get out of bed. And it was just like the whole summer, all of the things that had happening just came like crashing down on me. And I just felt such weight. And I was like, I can't, like, that's it. I can't, And so, yeah, immediately a dark night of the soul. But I brought it to my therapist, and she's like, if you imagine what you did that day as lifting a 500-pound weight, that is so far beyond your capacity, but you did it, and now you have to come back and you have to work your way back up to that. So start with the 1-pound weight, 3-pound, 5-pound, etc., until you build the capacity to lift this whole thing. And so that's kind of where I am now, is I'm still dealing with that downward spiral caused by everything that happened this summer. I still have a full course load. I'm still teaching pottery. And now I've brought in this aspect of self that needs integration. So I guess I'm gonna stop it there. Where I am now is just like slowly immersing myself into this world, changing, my social media algorithms, following dance schools and dancers. I had already followed quite a few, but following more. I picked up this book, Dancing in the Streets, which I am excited about because it's helping me bring in my previous research into what I'm doing now. Talking about how, like, dancing, for example, was a form of collective joy, and as capitalism took over, we have lost access to modes of collective joy. And then just trying to take it easy, trying to take it one day at a time, and then doing the Dissertation Diaries, just forcing myself to do it imperfectly without notes, just expressing what is, because like I said, a big part of my struggle is the embodiment piece. I feel very much like my presence is in my head, and when I'm struggling to drop down into my body. So like I wanted to write all of this down to have my field notes, because I know all of this is going to be important later when it comes to like remembering the process and writing things down and doing the dissertation. But writing so intimately is a little beyond me right now. So yeah, I guess I'm in the middle of my dark night of the soul, and Dissertation Diaries is one of my tools to remedy it. But also, like, the process itself is the remedy too. Like, I hadn't been to a dance class in a long time, months, and I went to one last week, and it was so fun. It was a contemporary dance class, and I just felt so joyful at the end of it. And so the only way out is through. That's the 10 of Swords in tarot. So yeah, I don't know. That's where I am. More to come. See ya.